Good evening, everybody. Welcome on this Sunday night, my Survive and Thrive live. Really excited to be with you here on this Sunday night. So if you're coming on, please do say hello where you are listening in from. Now, I always try and explain this right at the start of my video and the live, because this is a public business page, okay? So this is my fan page, which is public. And the reason why I say that is because obviously anything that you post on here, in this thread, in the comments, hi Nikki, obviously anyone else can see it. I do have a private and closed group called Divorce and Breakup Support After Narcissistic Abuse. Hi Luann, nice to see you this evening. You can post whatever you want in there and no one will see it, okay? Whereas remember, this is my public page, so when you comment, because I know many of you are still going through potentially thinking about leaving your narcissistic partner, or you're in the throes of it, and obviously you don't necessarily want them to know you're following someone like me who's going to give you loads and top tips on how to cope. Evening Linda. So it's really nice to see some of you coming on board, so do say hello if you want to. I understand if you don't, that's absolutely fine. I know I have lots and lots of silent watchers because I get lots and lots of messages daily from you asking advice, asking questions. But if you do want to come in my free and private group, Divorce and Breakup Support After Narcissistic Abuse, comment below and I can send you the link for that as well. And it's an amazing group. We've hit over 3,000 women in there now as well. It's so supportive. You know, I do little videos in there now and again, and it's just a great community. It really is. And seeing people at different stages, so you know you're not on your own going through all of this. Because if you're anything like me, when you initially come out of that relationship with a narcissist, you don't know whether you're coming or going. You know, I split up from my ex-husband now about 8 years ago. And when I was going through therapy at the time, I was hearing all of these words that I'd never heard of, or some words I'd heard of but I didn't really necessarily associate with myself and what I had been going through. So, you know, I completely understand where you all are, because, you know, not only can I help people on a professional level, being an accredited divorce and breakup coach, but I'm also doing my master's in positive psychology and coaching psychology. So I'm a positive psychology coach as well. But I have been where you are, so I have that experience. And I always say I haven't just got a t-shirt, I have a wardrobe full of t-shirts, you know, so I know what works, what doesn't work from a personal level, but also on a professional one as well. So I do my regular Survive and Thrive lives every Sunday night at 8 o'clock right here on my fan page. And then obviously I've got my private group, but I also work with people on a one-to-one basis as well. So if you ever want to have a chat and have a free discovery call with me, hi Jamie, where we can have a chat about maybe how I can help you on a one-to-one basis as well. Again, just comment below and I can send you, I'll have a discovery call application just so I can get to know a bit of history about what you've been going through, where you're at, and then we can jump on a call and we can see maybe if there's something that I can help you further with as well, you know. And I'm working with some incredible people right now, and just the results of having somebody who's been through it and on a professional basis is really incredible. So if you can let me know where you're also listening in from, because it's really important to me to know who my audience are. I have lots of people within the group from all over the world. So if you're in the UK or America or Australia, they seem to be the main ones in the group, but we do have lots from other places as well, like New Zealand too. So the topic this evening was probably a terminology I had never ever heard of when I came out of my marriage, and that's flying monkeys. And the reason why I chose to do a live about it this week was it's actually come up a couple of times. I actually put a graphic up of one of my posts called Narcopoly the other day, and it's got all the kind of alleged hotels all the way around, and on one of them was flying monkeys. And quite a few people were saying, what are flying monkeys? What is that? And it's a terminology that we use when we're talking about really smear campaigns from the narcissist. And I'm going to give you kind of a really good way, hi Rachel, a really good way of thinking about exactly what a flying monkey is. So an example, if you think, so I'm sure many of you have watched Wizard of Oz, haven't you? And in Wizard of Oz, you've got the Wicked Witch, and she has all of these flying monkeys that are kind of like her lackeys, that they're kind of like her servants, aren't they? And if we think about it, this is a really good way of thinking what a flying monkey is in this scenario. So you have the Wicked Witch in Wizard of Oz, and then you have all of these monkeys. So we all know the Wicked Witch is the boss. She's the one in control. She's the one that has all the power, and what she says goes. So she has then all of these flying monkeys, almost like a little army going around, you know, supporting her. Whatever she says goes as well. And this is really what a flying monkey is, that we use as terminology when we're talking about the narcissist. And this could be family members, and it could be friends, or it could be in a work environment. I get loads of people in the group when we're talking about this, where we have the narcissist, and then we also have maybe their family, that all of a sudden they all stick together, and you're left thinking, hold on a second, don't you know how he or she has treated me? But they all seem to take sides with the narcissist. Or it might be friendships. I did a post the other day about a so-called friend that I had when I was going through my divorce, who I thought was my best friend, but actually she is definitely a narcissist as well. But she was almost then conversing with my ex, and they were kind of colluding with each other. And they were feeding their own egos with narcissistic personality disorder like that as well, because it's very much, they will go by what they say. And I used an example in that story that I told the other day. So although this isn't necessarily about a relationship with a narcissist, it's a really good analogy, and I'm sure many of you can relate in the relationship capacity, or maybe friendship or work as well. You can kind of use it for all of this. So she in particular was a friend of mine at the time, and there was also 2 other people. So there was a kind of like a group of 4 of us really, and I kind of came to realise that this woman was very, very toxic, and I wanted to step away. Being an empath at the time and coming out of my abusive marriage, my confidence was really low, and I didn't want any conflict, so I just backed away, didn't say anything. I just wanted to kind of, you know, depart. Didn't want to be around anybody toxic at that particular time. Now, those other 2 friends at that particular stage, they really had 2 options. They could have asked me what was wrong, they could have seen if I was okay, but they didn't. What they did do was they wrapped themselves around this particular person who is a narcissist. Now, you may find this with your ex-partners. So as you've split up, you know, some of them may even know what he or she has done to you, but they go and stick with the narcissist. That doesn't necessarily mean that they believe what the narcissist says. They may do, because remember, the narcissist manipulated us for so long. So what they are doing is they're doing that exactly the same. But also remember this, that these people that are flying monkeys around the narcissist, that everything goes, they have no confidence in themselves. And they would rather be with the narcissist because they really deep down know what they're like, but because they've got no confidence in themselves, they know if they actually stood up to the narcissist and said, no, right, I don't like how you're treating her or him or anybody else, they're going to get the wrath of the narcissist on them as well. So very often the flying monkeys that surround the narcissist, it's not always because they believe what the narcissist says, but they're scared of the narcissist. They're not in a place themselves to stick up for themselves with the narcissist, okay? And I'd love to know if you've got any examples of this. So maybe when you think of your ex-partner, have they suddenly got this group of friends, or it really tends to be a lot of the family members in this scenario as well, that suddenly they're sticking up for the narcissist. And I see this a lot where all of a sudden the narcissist mum and dad, who maybe had a great relationship with the children, just suddenly, you know, they take sides with the narcissist rather than actually stepping back and looking at the other person as well. So I'd love to know if any of you have got any kind of, when you think of your narcissist, who is the narcissist in your life? Who have they been surrounded with? You know, do they have this core group of people around them? What happens then in that scenario is the narcissist will say stuff to them, and then they might go and say it to somebody else, and somebody else, and somebody else. And one of the hardest things, I think, when you are going through a breakup with the narcissist is, yeah, absolutely, Jamie, so your husband's family has done this to me and it makes me feel like I'm crazy. Let me tell you, you are not crazy. What you have to remember with a narcissistic ex is You know, they will say what they want because they want to keep their mask, their victim mode, to their friends, to their family. They can't suddenly say, you know what, my marriage has ended because it's all my fault and I behaved atrociously and I emotionally abused my wife or my husband and they've left now, or I've left her or him. Okay, that's not going to happen. And this is really difficult because you're left pretty broken when you're coming out of a relationship with a narcissist. You know, over 90% will be suffering with PTSD. So, you know, for you to picking yourself back up and feeling like you're going to go into battle, it's the last thing you feel like doing, let's face it. So with these flying monkeys that are kind of surrounding the narcissist, they are telling them stuff. They're looking like the victim. Oh, woe is me, poor me, this happened, that happened, and everything else. They are saying all of that. So then they feel sorry for them. They get sucked in. Remember, you were manipulated over a period of time. You know, when you come out of a narcissistically abusive relationship, it's an insidious form of emotional abuse. It doesn't just happen overnight. You don't suddenly get married. You don't suddenly get into a relationship and then a week later you know you're in a narcissistic abusive relationship. You know, if you look at me now and, you know, people will say to me now, especially the ones who've read my book, you know, and they know me now as a confident woman, they can't believe how I was treated. They can't believe I was in that scenario, you know, and I've remarried now. And my husband even now, he says, do you know what, Caroline, I still can't believe that you believed that. I still can't believe that you allowed that to happen to you. And it just shows that it can happen to anybody. You know, I consider myself to be a real high achiever, really ambitious. I was really confident before my marriage. And I think what you have to look at is where, if you're still in your marriage, what were you like before? And if you've noticed all of these things kind of ebbing away and slipping away and you're not who you were, you need to start maybe asking yourself some questions as to why. You know, and I've used this a few times on lives. Before you diagnose yourself with depression or go to the doctor, look at who you're surrounding yourself with as well. So Rachel says, my ex is the same, puts on a great act in front of people, plays the victim so well. Some of his family that I was close to now ignore me. He says to them he didn't see it coming. And it's a great example of that terminology, flying monkeys, that we say as well. Yeah, absolutely, Linda, definitely. So Carol, here we go. He told his work colleagues and some of our mutual friends that it was all my fault. He couldn't cope with my illness. I didn't do anything around the house. I spent all the money and wasn't easy to talk to. Thankfully, most of my friends know too. And that's really, really good. I'll give you a scenario. My ex worked for an airline, and I know people that he flew with, and he would be going into work and he would be saying that he had to do all the housework at home, he had to look after all the kids at home, you know, so he was working and then he had to do all of this because he wanted people to say, oh, you're an amazing father, what an amazing man, because it was feeding his ego and everything, his narcissistic ego with that. So you've got to think, if they're surrounding themselves with friends or family, and firstly they're going to portray themselves to be the victim, to be this, to be that, or anything else as well, okay? It's not like they're going to behave in a certain way. They have got their eyes firmly set on being victim, it's all your fault, and they will drag everybody in. So, you know, to their family, to their friends, you know, it is all your fault. Everything is your fault. Nothing is their fault, of course, because they want to be portrayed as the victim in all of this as well. Even if they're the ones that have left, they still portray themselves as the victim. And this was certainly my case. I didn't even leave my ex-husband. He was the one that left me in the end, bizarrely. But it was still like he was the victim in all of that and how he portrayed himself, you know, and I was the crazy ex as well. And this is where it becomes really difficult. If they're surrounded with family members or friends that are feeding their ego, you almost want to go and get a megaphone and say, hold on a second, I want to tell you the truth. I used to want to almost, when I saw my ex-husband talking to different people, I almost wanted to follow him around everywhere. And after he'd finished speaking to people, I almost wanted to go and say, right, can I now just tell you the truth, please? Can I actually now tell you what happened? Because that didn't happen. And it was driving me crazy. At one stage, this will make you laugh, at one stage I was even thinking about, you know, had these dreams about earning and having loads of money and go and get a great big banner at Heathrow Airport so everyone as they were driving into work would see this and they would know what he was like. And it was driving me crazy and it was making me ill. And I suppose one of the morals of this live that I wanted to do this evening is we can spend so much time focusing on our narcissistic ex. Why are they behaving like that? I want to go and tell the truth. You know, how dare he say that to his family about me? You know, why are they behaving like that? Why are they sticking up for him or her? Why are they doing this? This isn't fair. I know the truth. I'm a good person. I'm a nice person. Why are they doing that? Why are they making me feel so bad about it all? And we end up investing all of our energy about what's going on with the narcissist, with their friends, with their family, and these flying monkeys. Now, ultimately, the flying monkeys, it's almost like the narcissist is the hierarchy. They're the boss. They're the colonel in all of this. And then you have these flying monkeys going around. But remember, these flying monkeys, and you may spot this in friendship groups, because it's a really easy one to spot in friendship groups, where you will see one person in a friendship group who actually you might not think is very nice. You might actually think, oh, I don't really like them, and your gut instinct says so. But you don't necessarily want to make a fuss and actually say everything. You don't necessarily, in a group of friendships, to say, do you know what, I actually don't want to be your friend anymore. I think you're a really nasty piece of work, and you know, you're gossiping about them, you're being nasty about them, and I'm actually not going to be a friend anymore. Because a lot of us, we're so insecure in our own selves, our own self-esteem, we have our own internal battles. We'd rather be friends or be near this person because we know if we're not, how they can behave, and they can be nasty. So because we're not strong enough in ourselves sometimes, we stay within that circle. And this very much happens with the narcissist as well. You know, they're portraying themselves as a certain way, and you have to remember, if it's their parents or family that are close, they're probably going to take their sides. Probably because their parents, potentially one of them will be a narcissist as well, because we know that narcissistic personality disorder is formed in childhood. So, you know, they are coming from this cycle of abuse as well, whatever it is, whatever triggers there may be too. So they will have that coming down. So you're kind of onto a losing battle in all of that, focusing on their friends, focusing on their family. And I see this so much where, you know, people are so upset that such and such no longer speaks to them anymore, and I thought I got on really well with his or her sister or brother or mum or dad, but they don't speak to me anymore, or they're really nasty to me now. And it's really, really hurtful, don't get me wrong, and I completely understand all of that. But if you're going to heal and recover after narcissistic abuse, you need to take back your own power in all of this. Whoever your narcissist ex's flying monkeys are, if they want to go and do that, let them go and get on with it, okay? And one of the biggest things I work on with my clients is them redesigning a life separate to all of that. You can invest all of your energy going on all about that. Let me see what Becky says now. My soon-to-be ex has a very close group of friends, and he has portrayed himself as the victim and made out I'm mad, miserable and crazy to all these people. This really used to bother me until I realised these people aren't my friends really, if they believe it after knowing me for 6 years. So now I grey rock them too. Brilliant. Well done, Becky. You should be really, really proud of that, because it's incredibly hard to do sometimes, all of that. It really, really is, because, you know, you feel really aggrieved. You feel really, really hurt that people treat you like that. And actually those friends, they either know what he is like, but they are too scared to say anything to him as well. And they are his flying little monkeys. So now when you think about it, you can actually think about the Wizard of Oz. So he's the big green witch in all of this, and his friends are the flying monkeys, you know, they're agreeing with everything he says. But I guarantee it, none of them know what true healthy relationships or friendships are. Because if they deep down know that, they know what you're like, and they're still like that with him, Becky, then ultimately they're making a huge mistake, and they will either know that deep down, but they're too scared to say anything, or they just like a bit of gossip. You know what people are like? They like all the gossip and stuff, don't they? You know, they like a little bit of drama. It gives them something to talk about. But what I want you to do, and just as Becky is doing, I want you to stop focusing on your ex. I want you to stop focusing on their friends, on their family, and feeling like you need to go and justify everything to all of them to make them believe you. You know, and one of the phrases I use all of the time is you wanting the flying monkeys of that narcissist in your life to know the truth, and you're feeling angry, you're feeling upset. You continually trying and wanting it to change is like you drinking rat poison and expecting the rat to die. So basically, you holding on to this anger, you holding on to this upset, who is it serving? Because it's certainly not serving you carrying on feeling like that on a day-to-day basis. In fact, it will make you ill, mentally ill and physically ill. It isn't going to help you. And I did a video last week about forgiveness, and it's all tied up in all of that. You know, forgiveness isn't about justifying how your narcissist ex has treated you. It's about valuing your mental and physical health enough that you want to move forward, you want to get better, you want to start living your life again. And one of the biggest challenges that I have when I coach people is, I'm not going to be talking about all of them. Yes, we need an understanding of what narcissistic personality disorder is. We need to understand the traits and that. But then the focus is going to shift. The focus is going to shift of we can't change any of that. So Carol, exactly. I can relate to all of this. I hate that he's told her lies and she will believe it all. I so want her to know the truth, as he's maybe out to be a bad wife, mother and uncaring. That hurts and is frustrating. And I understand all of that. And again, it's stepping out of that and knowing she only is going by what he is saying. The same as my ex-husband's wife. You know, I know she thinks I'm crazy. She doesn't like me, you know, all of this. But ultimately, I also know she's only going by what he is telling her. So I bear no malice to her or to my ex-husband now, to be honest. Anyway, I have no feeling, nothing for either of them, you know. And this is where I want you guys to get as well. I want you to stop focusing so much on what your narcissist is doing, what they're saying to their friends and to their family, and then thinking, oh, their mum's thinking this or their friends thinking that, or it's not right because that's not the truth. And you can see your body language changes and you feel angry inside, and then you feel upset, and then you just feel like everybody's against you. Stop doing that. This is your life. And this is where a lot of positive psychology coaching comes in for me as well, because positive psychology is the study of happiness, scientific study of happiness. So we're not going to keep dwelling on all the bad stuff going on in our life. The narcissist, his friendships, you know, all of that. We're not going to keep dwelling on all that. Yes, we have to have an understanding of it. But if you want to get better, and this is why I'm a big advocate for people having coaches and counsellors and therapists when they're going through narcissistic abuse recovery, but you need somebody who specialises in narcissistic abuse, because it is very, very different from just going in and having a counselling session and offloading, because narcissistic abuse is very, very different to anything else. It really is. It doesn't just end when you split up, it carries on. And you need specific tools and strategies on how to deal with all of that. Otherwise, you are going to remain feeling lost and broken. You know, trying to co-parent with a narcissist is impossible. You know, I coach my clients on parallel parenting. It's a really strategy. And we heard from Becky, it's about going grey rock. Yes, of course, in an ideal, socially acceptable society, we'd all be great co-parents, but you can't co-parent with a narcissist. And you admitting to yourself that you can't co-parent does not make you a bad mum or dad. Absolutely not. What it does is it makes you recognise that for your mental health, you can't do that. So you are going to create other ways to put your children at the centre of your divorce rather than stuck in the middle all of the time. And you trying to converse and be the nice other parent and smooth it all over is just going to end in a disaster for you. You can't do that with a narcissist, however much you might think you do. And you might think for a month, oh, this is going all right, you know, everything seems okay. He or she's been really nice and that. And then bang, something happens, and that's what we call hoovering, which I did a video on about a month ago as well, where it's the back and forth of your emotions. Nice 1 minute, abusive the next. Nice 1 minute, abusive the next. So when you think of these flying monkeys with your narcissist and his friends and his family, please try and step outside of the situation and think they're behaving that way for one of two reasons. One is they're going by what the narcissist says, okay? And we all know what they're going to say. They're the victim, it's your fault, everything else, okay? So we know that. Knowledge is power. The second one of what would happen is they're scared of the narcissist themselves, because they know potentially what a nasty piece of work they can be as well. So they're not necessarily going to stand up to the narcissist, are they? You know, and you might think this, maybe you've got a friend like that, and it takes a bit of courage to do that, doesn't it? To step away or to say something. And if you're not feeling great yourself about your life, because so many people have so many issues and stuff going on, don't they? Excuse me. That ultimately they're not going to say anything, because they'd rather have a peaceful life, and they might like a little bit of gossip and everything else as well. So I want you to think about then a couple of steps for you to start healing and moving forward from this. Okay, 1, knowledge is power if you know what to do with it. So your knowledge now is, you know, the narcissist with their friends and their family will be saying one of these two things. 1, too scary, they're not going to say anything, and 2, what they are saying, because they're not going to say, yeah, I'm the wrong one and I did all of this. Okay, so we know that that's how they're going to behave. So you knowing that, stop being angry and upset at the situation, because you can't control any of that. Because even if you went in and got them all there lined up and said, actually, this is what happened, they probably still wouldn't believe you anyway. So Rachel Marie, he's even told the kids that he loves me and he doesn't want us to separate. So worried my kids are going to believe his lies. You know, I'm a really, really big believer when you're going through a narcissistic, abusive recovery, once you've split up, as long as one parent is focused on their healing and recovery and doing the strategies and really trying to heal and move forward, your kids can learn off you how to cope with a narcissist, okay? And that's why you stopping being angry, stopping being upset with your narcissist and their friends and their family. What you are doing if you have children is you are role modeling to them how to deal with scenarios like this. So when I hear a lot of the time, predominantly from mums, that you put your kids first and you do this and you do that and you are at the bottom of the list, I need you to stop putting yourself at the bottom of the list. You need to be right at the top of the list, number 1, and that is above your children. And the reason why I say that, it's not that you're not going to be looking after your children. The fact of the matter is, the more you can work on yourself, the more you can work on up here and your physical health as well, the better you are going to be able to parent. And again, I understand the majority of us are empaths that come out of a narcissistic relationship. We need to have something clear in our head that ticks a box to make us do that instead of that. This one is better for us because it makes us feel good and we're helping somebody, or there's a good reason why, as opposed to this. You know, me saying to you now, just ignore your narcissist ex, you know, don't get involved and ignore their friends, isn't going to cut it with you. And I know that. You need something in your head as another voice to be saying, okay, I need to stop being angry. I need to stop focusing on that. I need to stop being upset because. And the because is, you need to work on your mental health, because the more you do that and redesign a new life, the better you are going to feel, and you are going to be able to role model to your children that yes, bad stuff happens in life, but we pick ourselves up. And ultimately what we can show our children in that scenario is, how do we cope and how do we deal with a narcissist? And you are coaching them, and I hear this a lot, is it going to affect my children that they've got a narcissistic parent? No, of course there will be challenges depending on the spectrum of where they are and what they're saying and everything else. But if you're role modeling all of the time of how to do that, of how to behave with a narcissist to protect yourself, and they see you healing, you recovering, you role modeling how to deal with them, that's what they will do, because they will mirror your behaviour because you are their parent. So Carol, how do you lose feeling for them? Is it really possible after 27 years? At the moment they are living rent-free in my head and I want to evict them, Caroline. I've had an awful day today. Saw him in the car, drove right by me with one of the teenagers sat where I used to sit. I was immediately triggered, shaking and crying in the street. I need to heal from that. The friend I was with was helpful but doesn't understand why it upset me. My children are adults, but his stepchildren, they have completely detached and don't care what any of his family and friends say. I need to do that. Okay, so Carol, it's heartbreaking you're going through all that. Yes, you will start to feel differently about him, but you have to want to start to feel different about him. And that's, you know, a big step in all this. Remember, when you're going through a breakup, any divorce, you'll be going through a healing cycle. Same as if you were losing a loved one, okay? So you will have that initial denial. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it's happened. Then you will have the anger, the bargaining, and the depression, sadness, and you will often rebound with those. And it sounds like you're still stuck in the vortex of the middle bit, probably the sadness and depression aspect and a bit of anger thrown in here and there with all of that. And what it takes is you actively recognising you want to take steps on a daily basis to stop feeling like this. Because what happens when we come out of a relationship from a narcissist, very much we have a psychological term called learned helplessness. And what happens is we've almost become accustomed to feeling low, feeling like this, feeling like we're just really helpless and, you know, we can't do anything. We're in this victim mode all of the time, and it can be really hard to pick ourselves up. But if we've learned to become like that, we can learn not to become like that, and there's something we call learned optimism. But you've got to be proactive in doing all of these things as well. So, you know, oh, bless you, Sylvia, you know, well, we've connected now. That's a good thing as well. And I think, you know, I see so many people still stuck years later as well. And I mean, you've had a really, really long marriage there, Carol, as well. So it's not going to happen overnight. And I think very often we think about where we should be and we forget about where we've actually come even so far. And it can be those little steps on a daily basis that can make all the difference as well. But you've got to be proactive in your healing. If you're just sitting there, have all of these things going on in your head, the anger, the upset, and suddenly expecting a magic wand, one day you're going to wake up and go, oh, I feel okay again now, it's fine. That's not going to happen. And one of the biggest bits of advice I can give you is get really proactive in all of that. Now, obviously, you can have one-to-one coaching with me, and I understand, obviously, people's budget. Obviously, come into my free group because that can be really, really helpful for people. But even listening to things on YouTube, you know, my videos, all of these videos I download and I put it on a YouTube channel as well. Constantly listening to things that are going to raise you, you know, raise your positivity all of the time starts to rewire your brain, okay? And this is why I love my positive psychology, because it's a science, because I'm a scientist and I've got a science background, medical background. And for me, if you think that you're being negative all the time with everything, and I used to get sick of the sound of my own voice, if I was honest, I really, really did. You know, let's see, here we go. Lisa, come out of a 27-year relation. I did the whole shaky, tearful thing in the supermarkets. If you sent an upsetting text, you will come out the other side. Absolutely. And Lisa, this is where to go no contact. You know, I was the same. When I'd have physical reactions, you know, when he would come and pick the children up, I'd literally be there shaking, and then he'd go and I'd almost be having like this reaction, like shaking and everything, and I'd have to calm myself down. And you know, we go through all of these things, and it's horrible, and that's why no contact is as well. So Sylvia, it's taken a lot of work to get beyond it all. Absolutely, it doesn't happen overnight. I used to sit there and I'd be looking and I'd almost want my knight in shining armour to come in and rescue me. You need to rescue yourself. You really, really do. The biggest gift you can give is rescue yourself, because not only are you going to equip yourself with a toolkit to deal with this scenario and recover from narcissistic abuse, life, there's going to throw you lots of things in life. You've then got a toolkit on how to deal with all of that. So can you recommend anything to listen on YouTube? Okay, so all my videos are on YouTube as well. And what I would say is TED Talks are really good. TED, capital TED. They're only about 10 or 15 minutes long, and I will often listen to these when I'm getting dressed in the morning, cleaning my teeth, putting my makeup on and stuff, and I'm always feeding my mind with positivity. And TED Talks are really, really good, because if you're listening to positive things, and I'm a big believer in how one of the ways that I coach is a lot of the stuff that I get my clients to do, I get to know what their life looks like, so it slots in. I don't want to say, okay, half an hour every day, I want you to sit down and listen to a training or listen to a video. I want you to kind of think about how you can slot it in, which is why, you know, while you're getting ready in the morning, you know, cleaning your teeth or putting your makeup on, doing your hair, getting dressed, you can have a TED Talk going on your phone and you can be listening to it. What happens is, when you're in that negative state of mind, in your brain, all of those kind of nerve endings are all kind of negative ones. And because they're all negative, then when you go out for your day, everything you will see, you will almost see with these negative spectacles on all of the time. And you don't think of anything positive happening because your brain is so full of all of these negative neurons all of the time that start to multiply and quadruple in your brain because you're literally focusing on negative things all the time. And we need to switch that, and that's where a lot of positive psychology comes in as well. So Carol, I messaged you earlier as I think one-to-one with you is a big step to my healing, and that, yeah, I can't wait to get started with you, Carol. I really can't. You know, one session, a couple of weeks with me and you'll have big shifts. I know you will as well. But by raising your positivity, listening to things, and there's lots of strategies that you can do with this is where I work with a lot of positive psychology interventions as well. What we start to do with that is we start to rewire our brain. You know, so if our brain is full of all of these negativities, these negative neurons, and they're kind of, when they hit each other, that they, you know, they become more. So you kind of have one negative one that then becomes two negative ones, and then three, and then four, and everything else as well. Okay, so here's Jamie. My husband is also an addict, which can happen with narcissists, and when I put an order of protection on him, he then decided he better go to treatment. So he went for 2 months, and now he's telling everyone he's a new man and wants to work on their marriage. I just can't believe that in 2 months he can be a new man. I just feel he wants me back and start. Do you know what, that's such a difficult one, because I don't know all of your situation, Jamie, and it's really difficult to comment without knowing, is he a narcissist or not. If he is a narcissist, then it will happen again, okay? And being an addict can be obviously one of the traits of narcissistic personality disorder. He may well have been an addict and behaved in a certain way because he was an addict, okay? And I'm not going to necessarily say to you, no, you know, leave now or anything, because I don't know your circumstances in that scenario. So, you know, there's exercises you can do to see if it's going to work again that you can do. I do a great 3-month exercise with my clients, actually, and they tend to know if it's going to work or not. There's a couple of things that I do with them, and at the end of that 3 months, they tend to know whether to stay or go. If he is a narcissist, then obviously you need to back away, you need to move away, no contact, grey rock, and set up everything as best as you can then for that. But obviously without knowing more details, it's difficult obviously to comment whether to kind of try or not. If he's a narcissist, nope. If he isn't, and it was the addiction, maybe. As well. I saw a TED talk about breakup saying it was like addiction. The brain changes the same as it does on cocaine withdrawal. Do you agree? Do you know what? There's studies that show that actually breaking up from a narcissist can actually be harder than when you obviously are addicted to heroin and you are coming off there as well. So I read some research about that actually about a month ago with regards to heroin actually as well. So yeah, it really, really can be, because you become addicted to your partner, your ex-partner, and there's a lot of what we call trauma bonding and Stockholm syndrome involved in all of that as well. You become addicted to them. I did a video actually about being addicted as well. In the court, he told the judge he was a narc. Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting. They tend not to want to use terminology and labels in court and legal system. They tend to focus on the behaviour as opposed to the terminology. If he did tell the judge he was a narc, and he genuinely is, then yeah, move away as much as you can. Obviously, when I say move away, I don't necessarily mean to another country or anything. I just mean you need to protect your mental health in that scenario. So with regards to positive psychology and everything, with all of these negative neurons going on in the brain, by putting a few more positive ones in there, listening to things like TED Talks and doing things for you, you know, redesigning your life and starting to do some nice stuff, we start to get a positive one, and then another positive one, and another positive one. And whereas some days where you'd normally see all the negatives in that day, you start to see a few little more positives. And they might be really, really tiny to start off with, but remember, all these little steps on a daily basis are going to lead to giant leaps, and that's where we want to be. So I don't want to keep you too much longer and everything, because you know me, I could talk for England and I could just sit here for another hour chattering away to you all as well, and it's a Sunday night. So I hope that kind of explained a little bit about flying monkeys, and it's given you stuff to think about. It's given you an opportunity now to really take stock of where you are, you know, and I know many of you are just at rock bottom with all of this, and I absolutely get it, because I've been there and I was literally broken. You know, I was suffering with PTSD, I was suffering with depression, anxiety and self-harm. So I know what it is like to feel like that you feel like you just want them to say sorry, or you want them to acknowledge what they did, or you just want them to kind of stop telling and spreading lies. The moment my healing started was the moment I stopped focusing on my ex and started focusing on me. So I was using your grown children as flying monkeys. So that, Marcy, in that scenario, I would definitely focus on lots of love to your children, them watching you, how you deal with the situation as well. And it's really hard when you've got grown-up children. It really, really is. It's sometimes harder than younger children in some respects, because, you know, adults, it's very difficult to tell them what to do, and it can be really, really hard. But what I would say is really, really focus on yourself. Let them see you living your life, not focusing on it. Love them, you know, maybe arrange goes out for lunch and things like this, and just keep that relationship going, but let them see you be happy, because that's the biggest gift you can give them, I can tell you, because then they can see you, what it's like as well. So brilliant. Anyone who lives to TED Talk, oh, they won't even talk to you, Marcy. I'm really, really sorry to hear that. Do you know what then? If they won't talk to you, write some letters. Letters are a really good way. Get a shoebox, write some letters, so that, you know, God forbid anything happened, or one day when you start speaking again, you can show them you wrote these letters about how you love them, how all of this. And it's a really good tangible way of you doing that then as well, so that they've got that, even if it's one a week or something, just so that they know that you're always still thinking of them, because I'm sure at some stage you will reconnect and start talking, and you can show them this, and that will help them. Because again, what you have to realise is they're only going by what your ex-husband is saying to them as well, and I know that can be incredibly difficult. So you know what, focus on yourself. Maybe write the letter, because again, that can really, really help you keep moving forward. Otherwise, you're just going to keep staying stuck where you are. And I don't want you to waste 10, 20, 30 years waiting for them to maybe suddenly start talking to you and you not living your life. You know, go out and live your life as well, and be happy as much as you can, and take those steps, obviously for kind of healing and recovering from all of that as well. And maybe the letters, you know, are going to help if you can't physically speak to them. And I advise a lot of people like that, if they don't have communication with somebody, letters, old-fashioned, isn't it? But a good letter, and you save it, and then at some stage you can give it to them. And, you know, when you eventually start speaking, there might be a lot of anger, a lot of guilt, but you can still show them that you love them and that you were always thinking of them in this scenario as well. And you're teaching them then how to deal in a situation like that as well. So I hope you're all going to have a fantastic week. If anyone isn't in my private group, Divorce and Breakup Recovery, Divorce and Breakup Support After Narcissistic Abuse, it's a great recovery group, really fantastic community, over 3,000 women in there now as well. I must be getting about 25, 30 people requesting to join a day. I'm quite vigilant who I let in, I must admit. I have to turn down quite a lot. I get a lot of men asking to join. I do coach men, but this group is for women only. You know, so I do get a lot of men trying to join. I think they think they're going to find their next wife in there as well. So, and some of the things they put with the questions is quite amusing actually, as well. But, you know, I'm really vigilant as well, because I'm very, very conscious how narcissists can work. So, you know, anyone who wants to join, you know, I do scroll down, I look at I'm the only admin on my group, so I do make sure when I scroll down and look at people's profile that it's not just a Facebook profile they've suddenly started, because believe me, I know what a narcissist would do, I know what they would be like as well. And also, if any of you ever wanted obviously to have a chat about any one-to-one coaching, please let me know and I can send you my discovery call application and we can have a chat about that as well. But remember, you know, moral of this is, regardless of the flying monkeys and your narcissist, can't change any of that, and you staying angry and upset is just poisoning you inside. Let them get on with it, okay? Refocus on yourself, refocus on building yourself back up, you know, because I don't want you to waste another minute of your life feeling how you are right now, because you deserve to be happy. None of this was your fault, none of it. Okay, you were a victim in all of this, and I now want to help you stop being a victim and start living your life again, so you can feel happy and excited and feeling like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, not that just you're kind of, you know, really angry and really sad in all of this as well. But have a fabulous week. You know where I am if you ever need anything, and take care, and I will see you next Sunday night at 8 o'clock. Take care, everybody. Bye.